thank you all for attending. I very much appreciate it. And my name is Bill Blum. My company is Alpine Business Systems. I'm going to take you through what I hope is an educational process for you. There's something to learn every day, it seems like, in cybersecurity, and the threats, as you'll see, are pretty pervasive. Most people get very scared from going to these, attending these seminars, but if you hang in till the end, there is some good news at the end. So just hang in there. The real problem that we have is that the human factor is truly our weakest link, and that was said by Kevin Mitnick. He's a convicted cyber criminal, evaded the FBI for a couple of years. They finally put him in federal prison. He now has a cybersecurity training company, and he goes around giving seminars and training people. I've seen him speak a couple times, very impressive. But we have great systems in place, but as you'll see, the human factor is truly our weakest link. 90% of all breaches are caused by human error or carelessness, and that's an IBM statistic. 2 years ago, 90% of the American adults had their information stolen by big data breaches, and now the number is very close to 100%. So we can rest assured that your personal information is available somewhere out there on the internet for free. There's a lot of important concepts around this, and number one is you need good backups, business continuity, and disaster recovery systems, even personally, and you should back up your systems on a regular basis, including your home computers. There's quite a few ways of doing that. We'll talk about that. The other thing you have to remember is that there's absolutely no privacy when you're on the internet. Everything that you do can be tracked and traced. It's a public network, and Supreme Court said that when you're on a public network, back then it was the phone system, in the 70s, you have no expectation of privacy, and you have none when you're on the internet. Information about you and your firm is easily accessible anywhere. Within a half a minute, I can show you a hacker website where you put in your email address. It'll completely give you a very thorough diagram of everybody you're connected to, everybody in your company, who they're connected to, and it just goes on and on and on. Plus, you can look up all kinds of information on public databases, and of course, everything that's been hacked is pretty much for sale on the internet as well. And then there's nothing free on the internet. You'll see that we think we're getting email for free from Gmail. Gmail reads all of your emails with robots. They put up ads. Anything you get for free on the internet, you're paying for it in some way, in terms of looking at ads, or some way you're giving up information for the value that you get back. And usually it's a pretty good deal, but sometimes it isn't. So you have to remind yourself all the time, if this deal seems too good to be true on the internet, just like in life, it probably is. And the last thing we have to remember is that we need to be vigilant all the time. The bad guys only have to get lucky once. We have to push them away every single time. So privacy, there is no privacy. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, Microsoft, your internet provider, and the government, they know everything about you. Google can guess your IQ within 5 points if you use Gmail and you use the search engine, the Google search engine. That's because they know your likes, they know your dislikes, they know what you search, they know your browsing history, they know your habits when you get up in the morning, when you check your email, when you access the internet. They know absolutely everything, and they keep an 18-point profile on every single one of us, which is different than everybody else's profile. If I was to Google Jaguars, and Roland was to Google Jaguars, and I was into cars, and he was into animal rights, I would get car dealers, and he would get zoos as his search engine preference returns. It's absolutely amazing what they do with the big data that they have about us. The FBI says that there's only two kinds of companies out there, those that have been breached and those that will be breached. And they say everyone is under attack all the time, and one of the biggest challenges is to make sure that everybody understands that and everybody stays as safe as they can. So who are the perpetrators? Who are they and why do they do it? Well, there's insiders. Obviously, they're very dangerous people. They're sometimes they're actually planted into organizations to steal data, or they're disgruntled and they steal data or whatever. But as you know, anybody that's in your firm with the knowledge that they have and the access that they have, they could be very dangerous. Then you've got individuals and lone wolves out there that have a vendetta or an agenda against an individual or group, and they're pretty dangerous, but they're limited to what they can do if they're working by themselves. Now we're getting into the more dangerous groups, the hacktivists. These are people who have a social agenda. They absolutely believe that the data that they steal should be public information. So WikiLeaks, for instance, when they took Podesta's information during the Clinton campaign, they absolutely believed they were doing moral justice to everybody by exposing every single one of those emails. And this is a group here called Anonymous. They're pretty infamous, actually. Then you have the state-sponsored teams. Every company has one. Every country has one. China, Russia, Iran, the United States, Great Britain. A lot of stories about these teams. They're very well organized. They're very well funded. They have access to tools and resources and hacking things that we can't even imagine. You can just imagine what the Defense Department, the CIA, the NSA, the Chinese government has in their toolbox. It's just frightening. Then you have criminal networks that are spread out around the world, and they split up the tasks in stealing money and stealing information amongst various groups. Very well organized, very hard to catch because they're so distributed across the globe. So they're out there in every shape and form, these criminals. And who are the targets? Well, everyone's a target. 90% of all the attacks are against small businesses with less than 1,000 employees, and a third of all breaches are against companies with less than 100 employees. So yeah, your company, we have people tell us all the time, well, I'm just a small company. Who am I? I mean, why would anybody want to steal anything from me, try to get into my bank account? Well, I tell people, even if you've got 3 employees or 2 employees, I'll tell you what, I'll take the next 2 payrolls rather than you sending it to your employees. You think that would hurt? Of course it would hurt. You think it'd be a nice little payday for them? Absolutely. People don't understand the level at which they're at risk, especially small companies. And a lot of them don't pay enough attention to it as they should. Here's your vulnerabilities and the weapons they use against you, okay? They start with stolen passwords. They get those through phishing attacks, open ports on your firewall, known vulnerabilities like old operating systems, XP, Vista, Windows Server 2008, known vulnerabilities in website packages and programming languages, viruses and malware, insider threats. These are people who are placed inside of the organization, insecure Wi-Fi that's not protected with strong passwords, smartphone apps. We'll see how dangerous they are in a little while. Brute force attacks, that's where they actually attack your firewall, your every imaginable way that they can just send passwords constantly, usernames and passwords out of system, hoping they're going to get a hit, and a lot of times they do. Those are brute force attacks. And the most dangerous one is the social engineering, which we'll see in a little while. These are the tools, the weapons, and the vulnerabilities that you have, and the weapons that are used against you. These are the cybersecurity solutions that every company needs to have in place, regardless of their size. They've got to use encryption, they have to be monitored. SIM tools are very powerful tools and are coming down in price to the small and medium market, but these are tools that are used in large organizations to make sure that people are not exfiltrating data and whatever. Backup and business continuity solutions, firewalls, data loss prevention, dark web monitoring, vulnerability scans, identity management. It goes on and on and on. And is it overwhelming? Absolutely, very overwhelming. And can you get all of these from a single provider? No, they have to come from several different solution providers. We provide all of these to our customers in packages. Eventually, hopefully, somebody like Microsoft or a security vendor will be able to put together a best-in-breed package of all of these. But at this point, you have to buy these pretty much, you know, a la carte. But these are what you need to keep you safe. We at Alpine have every single one of these in place right now. And that allows me to sleep very well at night. And even if we did get breached, I'd say there's nothing else we could do. So, I mean, the way the number of breaches in the past 15 years has just skyrocketed, and we used to be able to keep track of it. These are just a few of the things that were massive attacks that have ended up with people, all of our information being completely exposed to everybody from here to Hong Kong. Cyber criminals here use it. The Chinese government uses it. U.S. government uses it in some ways. It's just amazing how many breaches are out there. They have phishing methods, and phishing is just that. They go fishing for information, and they fish you to try and get you to give up information. And these are just a few of the phishing methods. There's a standard one in an email. There's spear phishing, where they're going to send you directly. They're actually going after just targeted individuals, okay, rather than just a massive spam. They identify high target, high value individuals. Whaling is where they get people who have a lot of money, and if they got into their system, it's like killing a whale. You've got a huge treasure trove there. For instance, my industry, the managed services industry, is one of the top targets in the world. Why? Because we have access to so many systems. If they were able to breach us, they would probably be able to get into many different systems. So we would be considered a whale to them. Vishing is voice phishing. In other words, they'll get on the phone and call you and try and get you get onto your computer, convince you that there's somebody else. Smishing is now they have phishing attempts using SMS text messages. So yes, can you get phished in a text message by clicking on a link? Absolutely. And there's some very, very dangerous links that you could click on in a text message that could absolutely wreak havoc on your phone. And then there's search engine phishing. In other words, you put in a search term and you click on one of the results, and they set up websites that are absolutely full of malware and spyware and ransomware and all kinds of things. And it looks like it's just a return of a search term that you put in. So these are just a few of the phishing techniques. You should never engage with the hacker. If in fact you realize that you're being phished, you should immediately delete the email, the text message, or whatever, without clicking on anything. Some people have thought that they were going to play games with the hacker. No, you don't want to play games with these people. You just want to run away. I talked a little bit about websites that are infected. Well, Google says that 1 in 8 web pages, 15 to 20% of them are infected, and 10,000 come on every day with infections on them. This is how ransomware works. They get you to go to a website. You click on the link. It downloads a piece of software on your computer that no antivirus can find. Your firewall doesn't see it because it's not a known threat. You can buy a piece of virus software for $100 that nobody even knows about yet. And then it starts encrypting your data. And just by clicking on a link, that's what happens. So you want to always be sure what you're clicking on all the time, and step back and just don't wildly click on things. And I saw a statistic that clicking on emails on mobile phones or in text messages, you have a 60% chance, a higher chance of clicking on those emails because of how fast we work on mobile devices. That was a Verizon data breach report recently. So slow down, and before you click on anything, be sure you know that it's safe. And you can have some tools installed that would help you to know that. You can also be sure that you confirm the identity of somebody who sends you that link or attachment. Pick up the phone if it's unsolicited. Be sure that you're absolutely sure what you're clicking on is going to be safe. And sometimes it's very hard to do. Social networking sites. Stuff there can never go away. I mean, if you think that it goes away, people say, well, Snapchat goes away. Well, not if somebody takes a picture of that chat and sends it out to the world. So therefore, be careful what you post. Don't be stupid. Don't post that you're going to be out of town for 2 weeks. Don't post all this personal information that can be used against you. And tell people around you, tell the people that you know that really you want to be really sharing this information out there. Well, it's just, you know, it's secure because it's at Facebook. Well, they hacked Zuckerberg's account for 3 hours. So if they can get into Zuckerberg's account, I think they can get into mine. So be very careful what you post. Smartphones, more than 50% of those apps take your personal information. Delete the apps you don't use. Always have strong passwords on everything, including your smartphone. Before you get rid of your phone, go through the process of wiping it. It's 2 or 3 steps. They ask you 3 or 4 times, are you sure? Wipe everything out. The location services are great. I use Waze all the time. I like Starbucks to know where I am when I'm looking for a Starbucks, but you have to be very careful with the apps that you use. Many of them misuse a lot of the power that they have on these devices, including turning on the microphone and camera at any time. Tens of thousands of apps have been thrown off the Google Play Store, yes, and the the Apple iTunes Store. Why? Because they violated their terms of service. They were written by hackers to get into your phone, to listen to your conversations, to turn on your camera, to know where you are. Be very careful of the apps that you load on your phone. Wireless networks. Always connect to a wireless network that's secured. Now, many of them are not secured now. They're free open Wi-Fi, and that's because most sites now have the HTTPS in them, S meaning secure. If you're on that site, that means that everything is encrypted end to end. You don't have to rely on the encryption of the password to get onto the Wi-Fi. At home, make sure you always use encryption, at least WPA, PSK or stronger. The vendor of your home firewall, your router, your internet service provider can help you with that. And I personally use my own hotspot. I either use my smartphone or my Verizon Jetpack rather than depending on somebody else's Wi-Fi. I just don't trust many of them. Passwords. This is the single most important defense you can do. You need to change your passwords regularly. You need to make them unique and have different one for every site, application, and system. You have to make them complex, minimum of 8 characters. I use 12 now. Upper, lower, numbers, and symbols. Never share them with anyone, and certainly don't write them on a Post-it note or put them in a Word document somewhere, an Excel spreadsheet that's protected by a password. You can crack those things open like a walnut if you wanted to. If you can't remember them, use LastPass, and nobody can. Nobody can remember all the passwords they need today. I've got 550 passwords stored in my LastPass. And yes, it's very, very secure. It's recommended by all the financial institutions. It's a requirement in many industries that you use either LastPass or something similar to that. I recommend it highly. Plus, it makes your life a lot easier. You don't have to remember things, and it allows you to very easily and quickly log into sites. I don't even know what those passwords are anymore. I let LastPass create the password, and I let LastPass plug it in when I get to the site. Everybody's concerned about the security of it. When I talk to them, once they start using it, they see they love it. Also, very important, top of our list, two-factor authentication. Multi-factor authentication, same thing. We know what this is. You go to a website, you put in your username, you put in your password. You need a second authentication method, usually 6 numbers that come to your cell phone. We use a company called Duo, which is a market leader, works with just about every site. All of the sites we access have two-factor on them, requirement of that. That stops 90% of all the business email compromises. Business email compromises are the biggest problem facing computer users today. If you use the same password at LinkedIn or Amazon or any other place that you use for your email, okay, and they get breached, and trust me, nearly all of them have been breached at one point or another. The first thing that those hackers do is when they get that massive list of 10,000, 30,000, 300,000 emails and passwords on a site, they'll immediately try and log into your email system. Well, they know what your email address is. It's very easy to figure out where your email is hosted, and they'll try and log in. And if you're using the same username and password, they're in your system like you. They have access to everything, every single email, contact, calendar, everything in your email. And they can begin sending emails out as if they were you, because at that point, they absolutely are you. So Two-factor authentication would stop them dead in their tracks. They would have to not only have your username and password, they would have to have your smartphone and be able to put in that two-factor authentication. Use it wherever you see they offer it. Any site, any application, anywhere. Logical security, again, never email PII, which is personally identifiable information. If you don't know what that is, you should definitely know, because personally identifiable information is a person's name and their address. If you're in a HIPAA compliant environment or HIPAA regulated environment or a financially regulated environment, and you send an email that includes somebody's name and their address, two identifying pieces of information, you're in violation. You are not compliant anymore. Any personally identifiable information, anything that's proprietary, should be sent via a secure encrypted portal to share those files. Now, there's many of them out there. We use one called Anchor, eFolder Anchor, which is like Dropbox on steroids, but Dropbox is a good one. Many companies, many accounting firms, and just about every bank and loan officer has a portal. And they don't even send email via regular email. You speak to people through the portal. Doctors are now moving over to this, and your doctor should have a secure portal where you can pose questions. They can put personal documents in there, medical records, and everything. Never email anything that has to do with personal information. Check your bank accounts every single day and check your credit cards at least once a month. And the best thing you could do there is to freeze your credit reports. Why? Because if somebody tries to take out a loan in your name, the first thing they're going to do, the bank is going to do is run a credit check. Well, if your credit reports are frozen, they'll be stopped dead in their tracks. It takes about 20 minutes. You can Google how to do it. There's a government website that shows you exactly how to do it on all the three bureaus. It takes about 20 minutes. You can unlock it at any time with a single passcode that you can give a bank in case you're going for a loan. But it is the best way to stop identity theft and stealing of your identity in order to take out a loan. I've got all my credit reports frozen. Everybody in my family's frozen. Like I said, you can unlock it pretty easily at any point. So that was a lot of bad news, okay? Here's the good news. The bad guys are brutally pragmatic. They like easy, soft targets, and there's a lot of them out there. You need to be a hard target and do all of the things that I just said here. And I said there was 25 things that you should do, but that's growing all the time. There's 26 now. And this is pretty much an eye chart. But I will send this to everybody that's on this webinar, and you can peruse it at your leisure. But it's everything we talked about. Back up your data, change your passwords, use two-factor, keep your browsers, your antivirus, everything up to date. No Windows 7, no XP, no Vista. Those are known vulnerable platforms. Configure your antivirus to scan anything plugged in. Beware of unsolicited links or attachments. Never open one unless you're absolutely sure it's safe. If you ever get prompted to change a password somewhere, don't change it by following the link in the email. Change it by going directly to the site yourself. Beware of pop-ups telling you that you need to call to remove a virus or optimize your computer. If you get one, close out of all the programs and reboot your computer. These people use social engineering to get on your machine or make a phone call to you and convince you to do something you absolutely should not do. And that's what social engineering is all about. And that's what these pop-ups do. And that's what, by them calling you on the phone and saying they're from Microsoft or the IRS or somebody, never take those calls. And Microsoft calls you, conference me in, because I'm a Microsoft partner for 25 years and I can't get them on the phone. So nobody's going to be calling you to help fix your Apple computer out of the blue. Certainly don't allow them to access your computer if they make that phone call. Those are the phone scams. Number 9, lock your computer if you're leaving it for any period of time. It's very easy to do. It's Control-Alt-Delete lock on a Windows machine. Log off of your computer every night. You should leave it on though, so it can receive the updates in the middle of the night. Reboot your computer at least once a week. Never email personally identifiable information. Never email work products to your personal email account, because they'll end up at a place that is insecure, like Gmail or Opt Online or someplace like that. Never use flash drives that you found or ones that are given to you. Always buy and use brand names. Flash drives are one of the most easiest targets, weapons that they use. They can embed all kinds of spyware, malware on a USB thumb drive. So be sure that you absolutely buy brand new ones from a brand name vendor. And I don't even like taking the ones from trade shows anymore. Smartphones, as we said, beware the apps, delete the ones you don't use, wipe them. We also say now don't use USB charging stations, and that's because there's hackers that have known to actually unscrew the back of those things in airports and hotels and wherever, and put a little Wi-Fi device in there, and they're now on your phone without you even knowing it, just by you plugging in and use your own charger. Encrypt your laptops. If your laptops have personally identifiable information on them, you want to encrypt them. And there's ways that you can do that, especially with the new operating systems like Windows 10. Only use secure websites when entering any personal information. That's that big S that you see. That means that the information is encrypted end to end. You can convert any sensitive files to a PDF, and that'll take out a lot of what's called the metadata, which has a lot of information about it in it, about who made that document, what IP address you were on, and all that. You can convert your files to PDFs, and that strips out all the metadata. Beware of these free music video sharing sites. If you know anybody that's downloading movies that just came out 2 days ago, they're most likely on a hacker site. So stay away from those. Sites like Pandora, Spotify, they're all fine. You either have to listen to the ads if you want it for free, or you pay the few dollars and you listen to ad-free music. Again, nothing is free on the internet. Protect and encrypt your wireless networks, check your bank accounts and credit cards, freeze your credit reports. And if you think you've been breached, turn off your computer and call for help. We have a question here in the chat. What about VPN? Who do you recommend? Well, we're not a huge fan of any of these private VPN vendors, because they may be fine. We haven't vetted them, and I would not use one of those privacy vendors. I just make sure I don't go anywhere that I'm not supposed to, and I don't share any information either on the internet or through email or anything like that. Your work should actually have a very secure VPN for you to access the data and the information on their network. There's any number of ways of doing that, but in terms of a personal VPN, we really don't trust any of them, to tell you the truth, because everybody can be hacked, I believe, at one point or another, and they just scare me a little bit. That's all. Anybody else has any questions? They can post it into the chat. Well, I guess not. What I'll do is I will send you a link to this presentation, as well as this listing of the 26 things you should do. And if you have any questions or whatever, and you'd like to reach out to me, my email address is there, bblum@alpinebiz.com. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have and provide any more information you need. And I just want to thank everybody. We've done it in less than a half hour, which is pretty amazing. These things usually go on for about an hour, hour and a half. So I'd like to thank you and thank everyone, and thank obviously the business partnership and everybody there for all the work that they do. Very nicely done at the way they've organized this and given us this forum to help you understand how you can be safe. Thank you all.